Hello, hello, good evening, good afternoon. Hello, my name is Andrei Istrate. I will be moderating this amazing panel, which I found out about 2 minutes ago that I have to moderate. So please excuse my lack of cohesion. So we are discussing about education for game development, and maybe some of you know, RGDA was created 3 years ago, starting on the premises of the lack of education in Romania. And we are one of the few countries in Europe which has quite a big size of game development force, but without a proper lack of education from the education system. And today we are going to find out some answers regarding this issue. So first of all, I would like our panelists to present themselves, and then we'll kick things off. Ioana, please.
Hi, my name is Ioana Angelescu. I'm the HR manager for production teams for Bucharest, Ubisoft Bucharest.
Hi, my name is Rob Kurta, and I run the BA Games Design and the BSc in Games Programming at the University of Suffolk in Ipswich, and we get a number of Romanian students coming on our courses.
Hi, I'm Alin Moldoveanu. I'm a professor and vice dean of the Faculty of Computer Science from Polytechnic of Bucharest, and I'm running the Master Computer Graphics and Virtual Reality, as well as doing research in virtual reality.
Hello, Catalin Butnariu, here as president of RGDA.
I would like, please, ask you to keep the microphone closer so everybody can hear you louder. Like I mentioned earlier, we are one of the few countries that doesn't have an education system that involves a lot of game development courses. And Alin, I would like to start asking you, where do we stand today? What's happening, and what do universities do in this matter?
Well, they do something, but they don't do everything that should be done. I just made a brief search, looked at the major computer science faculties from all around the country, and almost all of them have like 2 courses on computer graphics, a basic one and an advanced one. In some places they are mandatory, like in our faculty. In other places they are optional courses. And that's about all. So we give to our students a very good, let's say, background in computer science, programming, algorithms, and computer graphics, but that's all, nothing specific for the game programming. I was also looking at the master programs, where typically in our educational system, the students get the advanced formation that they don't get at bachelor level. Bachelor is quite general in Romania. And there is just one program, the one that I mentioned, computer graphics, multimedia and virtual reality from our faculty. I don't think it's enough, because the master program has 30 students per year. 30 students, it's little compared to the size of the market. I think there is a lot of room for improvement and a lot of opportunities for the faculties to create courses and programs in this dedicated for this part of the industry that we all know that if we put it together, it's probably the biggest sector in the software industry in Romania.
Yeah. Rob, I would like to ask you, besides computer sciences, there is a wide range of skills required. How do you incorporate courses for other disciplines at universities in the UK?
That's a really good question. So there's a wide spectrum of game development courses that exist in the UK, all the way from games programming and computer science on one side to art and game art courses. And sitting in a lot of those programs are courses which notionally call themselves computer games programming and design, or they might call themselves computer art and design. With a lot of those courses, what constitutes design is very varied. Sometimes it's a little bit of development, sometimes it's a little bit of character design, if it's on the art side. So there's an enormous variation in it. We centre, for example, on our degree, we focus almost exclusively on game design itself and on the design of small prototypes of games. So in the UK, it's really important for people that are looking at courses that they investigate the individual course itself, because there's a very, very wide variation, and that probably comes from the subjects where they originated from. So on the computer science side, for example, computer programming side, a lot of computer games programming courses originate out of computer science degrees. So again, the quantity of game-related material in those degrees can often vary from one university to another. It might in some cases be 1 or 2 modules, perhaps taught in the second year and the final year, right the way through to courses which are actually specifically computer games programming right from the word go. So I'd say the scene in the UK is very, very highly eclectic. And that presents lots of opportunities, but it means that for people thinking about courses or thinking about what they should be doing, they really have to investigate hard, because sometimes the titles of courses aren't really what's going on underneath. So what's going on underneath those courses on a day-to-day basis can vary dramatically. Yeah.
Cool. I want to move a bit, and then we'll come back to further discuss on this subject. But I would like to ask Ioana, since she's representing one of the biggest studios in Romania. What are studios like Ubisoft searching in terms of specialized workforce?
Okay, so first of all, we can divide this in 2 sides, meaning the technical side, where we can think about the jobs we're searching for, such as programming, where we search for C, C++ knowledge, for example. Art, we look for 2D, 3D artists with Photoshop and 3ds Max knowledge. And of course, the most difficult to find is currently game design, that is really specific to the video games industry, and also level design. But the second part that we are searching for, especially when we discuss about juniors and students, is the soft skills part, because we are trying to uncover their potential to learn and to grow. Due to the fact that we do not have a university that specializes in game development. So we try to breed our own game designer, level designers, and so on. That's why we have a lot of programs together with the university, especially the Polytechnics University, in order to grow these profiles. So the other part is, of course, the soft skills part. And I'm referring here to communication mostly, because in Romania, historically speaking, this is a problem, meaning that they are not used to work in a team. They need help to write an email, to communicate properly with the ones around them. During the last years, we had some students that were involved in several projects, even in high school, even in the universities, such as hackathons, game jams, the game accelerator that was focused on students. That helped them a lot, because we could see the results, meaning improved communication. They knew how to communicate with each other. They know how to express themselves. So I think that it's really important, due to this lack of university speciality in game development, to try and help them, all of us together, to be involved in projects like this, where they can simulate real day-to-day work, let's say. So yes, we're searching for soft skills. Communication, self-awareness is a big problem nowadays, especially in Romania, because they do not know what they are good at. They don't understand exactly, okay, a game designer, most of them think that a game designer is the one that writes the story. of the game, or the one that designs the characters. And we have to be really patient, explain them, okay, so stop. We'll explain what game design is, we'll go to universities, we'll make presentations, look, I'm a game designer and I'm doing this, I'm a programmer, I'm doing this. And afterwards, they have the possibility to choose, to see if that specific job really fits their profile. And I think also some career counseling in the university will be really nice for them, just to help them uncover their potential, to see their strong points and their weak points.
May I pick from here?
Sure.
What you said opened several aspects. You were talking about their soft skills. You were talking about exploring career opportunities. I would like to look at this from two different points of views. One, it's a major lack of the education in our country that we are trying, especially in the technical universities. I don't know much about the humanities side, but in the technical universities we are focused on a lot on creating technical skills, but we are focused almost zero on developing creativity. So in my opinion, this is a very big problem. Normally, we should be creating two types of engineers. Execution engineers, which know to do a thing to the database, a website, or whatever, and research let's say, creativity engineers, which are guys much smarter, and they should know maths, but also should be trained in creativity. This is an important aspect, and we are starting to look to improve this. The other one is the perception about game development in Romania in general. While other fields like, let's say, I don't know, networking, web development, databases, and some other general, let's say, sectors of software development are perceived by students as being essential, and they know they can find a job very easy in that direction. Very few students know that game development, it's actually a business, not just fun, not just playing games. So they don't realize that they can have a career in game development. And you know, we started to address this issue, and it should be addressed as early probably in their first year of faculty, or even sooner in the high school, because that's the moment when they start narrowing their interest. One of them is saying, I want to become a specialist, I don't know, in networking or in security or whatever. We need them to start thinking from the first year, I want to become a specialist in game design. So we are having in mind a lot of, let's say, actions to create this mentality that they can work in game design. You know, we will talk about Game Cup maybe a bit later. I think it's a nice moment to introduce it, but...
Information, the lack of information you mentioned earlier regarding the fact that people don't know that game development is an actual career they can try for their life. It's missing in Romania. It's one of the things RGDA is trying to do in the next years, and already started a couple of years ago. But it's a long path. We lack a lot of things like media. You have in UK media that helps promote this segment, and other stuff which we are lacking. But beside the big companies that need workforce, there are small companies or indie developers which do their research online or on other various tools. And I would like to ask Catalin, because you represent Carbon Incubator, would they benefit from some education or some mentorship by applying such a program?
Obviously, I mean, taking part in any kind of incubator or accelerator, you gain access to some to a bunch of expert advice. And that is obviously helpful, but this is not, so it is helpful, but it is not formal education. So, and I think that is really what we need to help develop. RGDA already has some objectives regarding education for next year, and we intend to work very closely with universities. We have something in the works with Alin here with Polytechnica University, which we will announce very soon. And we will be working with the big companies, because they are also directly interested in developing education, because it helps them on long term. And there are several other, we start to see a few other initiatives in not just in Bucharest, but in other cities in Romania, where people start to get involved in developing educational programs for game development. And this is very important, I think there are even programs targeting high schools. So it's starting. It's a slow start. It took us a long time, but we are finally starting to move in this direction, and it will definitely one of the big objectives for RGDA next year and onwards.
Nice.
I'd just like to say that a number of the issues that you raise are also very pertinent in the UK as well. Some of the things that I think are going on is that there's schools and colleges for young children. They have very, very fixed programs of study. It's very difficult to bring in a new media. A lot of the tutors are very nervous about games and how to teach anything at all to do with games. They believe that that must involve very, very high technical input into the schools, which often they can't afford. And they have, I think, also a fear that their students know more about games than they do. And I think it's really important for people to understand that teachers will be naturally fearful of that they're going to be saying things that they might perceive as being wrong. And I think it's really important in those areas that we move in, and we move in with programs that might get small children to play games non-digitally and to make non-digital games and to work together to produce little game artifacts in very short amounts of time, and that this can be really helpful for teachers to see that they can start to teach children about the principles of games and games design without really using any tech at all, and that can then be turned into little competitions which an organisation like the RGDA could help to foster. And I think that those kinds of things can be really helpful. We've been running things like that in Suffolk, and we've been trying to get kids involved to do very, very small game developments and to get their teachers comfortable with that before we start moving on to anything more technical, let's put it like that. And I think in those ways we can start to make an impact. And the other big area that we're trying to promote is through things like after-school coding clubs, so that kids are just coming together and just making games, again, because you can't necessarily get it into the curriculum, and you can't necessarily get schools to say, well, we're teaching this curriculum, now we're going to fry it all out and we're going to bring in that curriculum. It takes time for them to see, oh, the kids are doing this, that means that we could integrate this component. I don't know, it could be something to do with biology into that game-making curriculum, and we can use games as a mechanism for teaching something about a subject like biology. So that's a really kind of long-term thing, and I don't think you can just dive in and change everything like that. It will take time. But we definitely have very similar issues in the UK to those kinds of things that you're raising.
So until now we saw that there is a real need from the game development community of people. We've seen that there are some programs being developed locally or in partnership with various universities. But I will narrow it down to a very basic question. What does it take, and Alin, I think maybe you can answer this question, to actually have a curriculum of game design or of C++ or of a specialized curriculum in a university?
I think it's more than C++, but maybe we should actually ask Ioana this question. How difficult it's for you to form someone that has, let's say, a good knowledge of C++ and programming and algorithms? How many months does it take since you hire him and since he becomes effective in game development if he only knows C++ and this stuff?
So now we're discussing about programming or about transforming a programmer into a game designer, because
Yeah, actually there are many things.
It's not clear for me, so that's why I'm asking.
I also wanted to ask you from which kind of faculties are your game designers coming?
Yeah, so
because I see that's something that is not specific to a single field. It's more about developing some skills.
Some skills.
I think Alin's first question, if I understand correctly, is about you take a developer with good C++ skills out of university. How he knows C++ development, he doesn't yet know how to be a game developer. So I think the question is, how long does it take to train that guy to become a game developer and not just a developer, a general developer?
Okay, so first of all, we don't take them if they only know C, C++. We take them, we choose people to have good soft skills, meaning that they can communicate, they can work in a team. So we also look at this and also at their potential to grow. That's why we have quite a tedious recruitment process, but it depends on each and every one of them. We assign them a mentor, so we don't leave them alone. Usually people that join Ubisoft are people that are really passionate about games, and they are really invested in this, and they do a lot of research in their spare time. So they don't just come like, okay, I'm a developer and I want to do games, but I don't know nothing about games. So usually it takes like 6 months to 1 year, let's say, for them to get to know the pipeline, the processes, and everything else. But we take people that are already a bit inside the video games industry with a passion and that are eager to learn, you know.
That's it. It's the word, the passion. Yeah. It's the word in this area. And my opinion is that you are in a big fight with other sectors for students' passion, and you should at least partially win this fight, and you should start early. Because that's what happened. It's a big software market, but that right now it's fighting for the workforce, and eventually it's not just about the money, because you are not able to offer, let's say, 2 times more. Maybe you would offer the same as other fields, or maybe slightly more, or maybe slightly less. But what makes the difference for the students is how attractive they find your field, and this only comes from passion. So we should find together ways to reach to the students, to inform them about the game development, to make them see it as a potential career, and then they will start early to build this passion and the advanced skills, because one thing is to be a C++ programmer, and then one thing is to be someone who is able to program for games, graphics, shader, real time, and a lot of stuff that takes 6 or 1 month, or maybe 2-3 months. 2-3 years earlier to become really pro.
Yeah, and to answer your second question about where do our employees come from, most of them are from technical universities, most of them from polytechnics. Even if they're game designers, artists, level designers, and so on. Of course, 90% of our programmers are from polytechnics. But even in the most artistic fields, we have people from polytechnics, because our jobs are technical at their core, no matter what. So even if you are a game designer, you're not just writing stories. Even if you are an artist, you're not just drawing. Okay, so you have to put your work in the game and so on. So yes, that's why we've been focusing for the past at least 6 years our efforts to educate the people, and especially to create a strong bond with the technical universities such polytechnics. And since 3 years, we also started to go to high schools and to make some projects. Like Rob said, we had a similar project. We started with a small board game, and afterwards we went to developing a small game, video game. And for example, this year we had like 400 people in high school that applied for this program. Wanted to ask you another question about how do parents see this industry in London, because we are having some awareness issues in Romania, for example. Some parents are saying that this is not a serious job and that you should go and work in a bank. And yeah, I discuss a lot with students, and this is what they tell me. My mother says that this is nothing good for me. I should go and work in a bank. So I was curious, how is this in London?
Well, it's very similar. There's a huge disjunction between thinking of what is a serious career and what is a trivial or an entertainment career. And we have that struggle too. So it's really important that large software developers get involved in making it clear to young children and at events where they're likely to be that this is a serious career for them. And there's a lot of work to do there. I was going to raise the issue particularly of gender because it's a serious issue in general, but it's even more serious when it comes to female game developers and female game programmers. So one of the really interesting things is we ran the young persons game competition in the summer, and we went up to present the awards. That was for children up to the age of 13. Half the participants in that event were girls, and then you look out there and you talk to them about a career in games design, but what you actually, or in games programming, but what you actually know is that before they get to 15 or 16, that's already gone. The chances of them actually persisting with that career are really slim. So I think that there's a really big issue there as well. So it's not simply that it's not serious. There are other, there's a particular issue with gender, particularly females don't regard it as being a serious career to get into. And that all starts well before they come to university or technical college. That's already happened. So I think the work has got to happen at the point at which that starts to take place. You can't solve that problem at university. You actually have to go into schools and into primary schools to start to address that issue.
Interesting. I would like to end this on a higher note. So here's a big question. How can the government help the industry in terms of having education inside, dedicated game development education inside schools or universities? And Rob, at the end, can you tell us how it's done in UK and what's the government support in this regard? Once, Kurta?
I'll take it first. I think it comes down to having an overall strategy about the games industry sector. So if the state recognizes the fact that this is a significant industry that creates jobs, that generates revenue for the state, then it can put in place things to help support and to help grow the industry. And education is one of those things. So, but the first thing we need to do, and this is one of the things that we try to go towards with organizing an event such as Dev.Play, is to put the industry on the map and to start having discussions with the government to have a strategy concerning the game development industry. Once we do that, getting the state's involvement in supporting education will come naturally, I think. and we'll be there to push anyway.
Definitely. Alin?
I fully agree that the government should do something because that's why we pay them. But
Let's not get into politics.
yeah, exactly. That's what I want to say. Let's not get into politics. Actually, universities have a large degree of autonomy, and they can adapt their programs to some extent. They are not really flexible. I have to say that, especially at bachelor level, the programs change so slow. It's like, I don't know, I make a program now and I keep it for like 5 or 10 years without changing. This is stupid in today's world. We should adapt much faster. But the master programs, they can be changed very easy. You don't need any kind of approval from the ministry. You can make changes very fast. You can create a master program dedicated for game development, let's say, or you can change 1 or 2 courses in an existing master program to add game development subjects, and so on. But this depends on the need, if the students would like to attend such programs or such courses. I believe that this kind of need exists to some extent because we are noticing it at our faculty. We have this program and we have candidates. Each year it gets full of candidates. But still we need, again, we go to the point of creating this passion so they, because we are in a fight with other sectors of the software industry.
Alin, I would like to elaborate on this bit because this is very interesting and like Ioana mentioned earlier, one of the biggest lack of skills for the industry is creative positions. So if through RGDA or through direct partnership with a company in Romania, what we would require for have a master on game design, for example?
Well, it would be amazing if big players in the industry can somehow contribute to make these master programs very professional, because we are professors, we are specialists mostly in technical stuff, but we cannot cover everything that is related to game design.
So their contribution should be in terms of courses or
they could
material?
support us with, let's say, specialists that could hold some courses on some very specific subjects, and this would make us easier for us to define, let's say, focused programs on game development. I'll just give an example. The master program that I'm coordinating has courses in computer graphics because we have the specialist in computer graphics. We have courses in GPU, in image processing, in whatever physics and animation. We can cover the technical things, but when it comes to design and others, we don't have this kind of expertise. So we could make very good use of collaboration with the industry.
Cool.
I think this is what should happen. That I think that universities should start seeing the game development as an interesting area and devoting at least 1 or 2 courses, or if possible some master programs. Now I'm creating competition for myself, but okay.
I would like to add that it's even more than interesting. I remember a survey I read about a year ago, I think, it was done by RTDA, that at every given point in time, there are about 200 or 300 open positions available in the game industry. So it's huge, a lot of job opportunities for students.
This can mean 2 things. Either it's growing or they are firing people
No,
constantly.
trust me, it's growing. It's growing.
For sure.
Ioana, your answer regarding the government support from a company perspective.
From my point of view, I think that we are missing a lot of awareness. And if we will manage to make a Romanian blockbuster video game, it doesn't matter if it's a big company, if it's an indie company, and we will have a lot of success, and the awareness will rise. probably it will be much easier for associations like RGDA to go to the government and say, look, we made this profit from one single video game, so please help us with some state aid and so on. So I think that also the industry should contribute to this by making an awesome game, at least one awesome game.
I think everybody's trying.
I'm sure.
What's happening in UK? How does the government support
Well,
universities?
so there are things like the UK Games Fund, which supports a number of things like indie game projects. So recently they set up something called the Transfuser project, where they funded, I think it was around about 20 university graduate teams to develop games over the 10 weeks of the summer. They just presented their games at EGX this weekend, and then the best 6 of those are going forward to pitch for further funding, for a further £25,000 worth of funding to support indie game development. So there are projects like that which take place. But I'd just like to pick up on the comment that you made about courses and courses working with industry. And I think our experience is that, the word I use is you have to be really porous. I mean, industry has its own timescales, its own schedules, its own way of working, and it must make profit, and it must do the things that it must do. And education really has to learn to adapt to that if it wants to take advantage of it. It's no good, I think, for courses to be saying, we want industry to come in, if then, when they do, they're going to have all these demands made on them about how that must be. So going back to the courses and their developments, it's been my experience that what we have to do in education is to make our courses more porous and open-ended. And that leaves us with an issue with students, because very often what students want is absolute certainty. So they'll come to us saying, you will do this and you will do that because that's what you said. And when you're dealing with a really dynamic industry like games, a student can come in the first year, and by the time they've left in the third year, everything is very different. So it requires, I think, from everybody a proper understanding of what position the industry is in and how education can best adapt so that it can take advantage of the opportunities that are out there, because both industry wants students to be well educated in the skills that it needs in order to provide them with the personnel. But at the same time, the students have to understand that that industry is constantly evolving and adapting, and that therefore what they came in with an expectation of finding, they might find is a very different landscape upon leaving, which leads us to the soft skills and the ability to be able to see beyond a kind of narrow technical expertise to a much broader understanding of where the industry is. So I think that there's an issue there for higher education. That's certainly something that I've found.
Rob, thank you very much for your insights. Ioana, Alin, Catalin, thank you very much for attending this panel.
May I say just a few more words, because
sure.
I think it's an important perspective that we shouldn't miss. We were talking about the formal education, the courses, the programs, and so on. I think we should also keep in mind the other ways of educating, like summer schools, like workshops, and so on. And these are ways to create awareness and also expertise. And you know, we are working a lot with the big players and with RGDA to develop these aspects a lot. So these are very effective, and my suggestion is that other education institutions should look into this kind of activities also. We have summer school. I'll just give an example. We started it like 8 or 9 years ago. At first we have 15 students, 15 students, right? And this year we have 100 students. So it's a huge growth in a few years. And this it can only be explained if you develop the interest in the area.
Yeah. Indeed, thank you very much for making this point, Alin. Now, before closing, let's take some questions. Nobody? Okay. Okay.
Hi. Thank you. First question would be, what steps are we taking or should the industry take in order to raise the awareness and educate the people from outside our community to bring awareness about what the game industry is? And secondly, what should we do to educate parents or kindergartens or high school on what games should they show or tell their children to play so they'll build a good culture in gaming?
Okay, so I will answer. First, what we do in order to raise awareness is that we go to several events, even if they're events organized by the universities or by high schools, or events that are organized by Ubisoft. So we present people what a programmer does in the gaming development industry, what an artist does, what a game designer is, what we expect, how to prepare themselves for such a job. Usually we have a lot of questions, especially for the game design part. Usually we encounter a lot of enthusiastic people that want to develop their own engine and to create an MMORPG. So it's this kind of difference that we see in every event that we go, people that want to create something amazing, even if they don't exactly know the specificity of that job. This is what we do for the students and for the ones that are in high school. We also organize some more technical events such as hackathons, programming for 24 hours, together with some mentors from the production teams in Ubisoft. We also make, let's say, the Ubisoft Game Jams that received a lot of positive feedback from the community. There are hackathons of developing a game during 48 hours. And this received a lot of success and created awareness, because most of the people here in Romania did not know what a game jam is, and they were really delighted to find out. And for the parents, I think we only did one event once with Andrei. I think it was back in the day when it was a private university. And people were coming, future students were coming with their parents to this presentation of the university. We were trying back then to integrate some game design courses into this private university done by one of our game designers. And each student was coming with its respective parent, and we had the chance to discuss with all of them. And I think that that we should organize more of these sorts of events, like parents and students, and not showing parents games, like you said, because they won't understand what it's involved in doing that game, even if they would like it. I don't know if I answered.
End of commercials.
Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, we have so much time that we won't take any more questions. Sorry for this. But after the panel, we can sit more and talk with our guests for today. So thank you very much. Thank you, the panelists, for being here.